The theme for June is Living Everyday Wonder. The body. The topic for today is Welcome to the Temple. Ernest Holmes shares this about the body. Our body is part of the kingdom of God. Therefore, there is a spiritual pattern at the center of it. He also says, body expresses intelligence. It's apparent intelligence being lent by the consciousness which permeates it. Kimberly Crenshaw offers this perspective. To build a world that works for everyone, we must first make the radical decision to love every facet of ourselves. The body is not an apology, is the mantra we should all embrace. Let's declare together, my body is the house of the divine on earth.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And at this time, it is my honor to introduce Reverend Kathleen.
So I'm going to invite Michelle and Dean to let go of Facebook and come and enjoy the service. All right? Just let it go. My sense is that the system is overloaded with the event that's going on outdoors. No? Okay. All right. So I just invite you two to move away from Facebook and come enjoy the service with us. Sound like a good idea? Yeah. This is a great topic. This is such a good topic. They're all good topics, but what I'm realizing is there are a lot of body issues coming up for our planet, for our community, and so this is the perfect time to be focusing on this topic, living everyday wonder, body, focused on the body temple. And our topic today, I love it, welcome to the temple. Welcome to the temple, the body temple. And so every Sunday this month, even with our guest speakers, we'll be focusing on this amazing creation of the divine, which is called the body temple. And realizing that it is a conduit of divine intelligence. It's not just the house of the soul. It is a conduit. It is a very precious conduit of divine intelligence. And by loving it, learning from it, listening to it, because it's permeated with consciousness, that we have one God experience after another. I'm going to say that again. By loving it, learning about it, listening to it, we have one God experience after another. Anybody for that? I'm for that. Yes. So today is going to be a foundation for the whole entire month. And so I'm going to be talking about the body temple is perfectly designed. The body temple is a reflection of our thought world, and the body temple as a guidance system. And remember, this is going to be a taste of all of these topics, and we'll expand on it as the month goes along. So the first point, the body temple is perfectly designed. I think Ernest Holmes said it so perfectly, and Monica just read this, but I'm going to read it again. Our body temple is the kingdom of God. It's part of the kingdom of God. Therefore, there is a spiritual pattern at the center of it. And how do I know that? Because the body's tendency when we relax, I've learned this in like neon sign from my friend Charlie Curtis, is that when we relax the body, when we put it into relaxation response with meditation, with prayer, with journaling, all these different beautiful spiritual practices, we create an atmosphere in which the body can heal, which means it returns back to the original pattern that's already there. a perfect pattern of health. And that health is the God self, that is us. So if we remain in stress and our body is hurting, it's not going to have an opportunity to heal. So that's why it's so important to do our spiritual practice and to get the body into a state of, hey, Uni, good to see you, into a state of relaxation for the healing process to take place. And then there's another aspect that's so important. Just like the infinite variety of forms that we see on the planet, there are an infinite variety of bodies, all shapes and sizes, all different colors, and isn't it wonderful? And can you really truly embrace that your body temple is beautiful, whole, and perfect, just as it is, in this moment? And I'll tell you why that's so important, because acceptance and loving the body is the first step to being able to live a truly wonderful, fulfilling life. And when we can love the body and move into a relaxed state, it allows the body to adjust to that perfect pattern that's already there. And so our bodies, all bodies, are inherently good and valuable and deserving of love and respect. And it reminds me of a song, one of the first songs that I heard when I entered a religious science church years ago, and that was the term we used a long time ago. More recently, we just say science of mind, and people get it confused with Scientology. I mean, you know that whole thing. So the thing is what I learned back in those days is a song that Louise Hay embraced as part of her ministry, and it's by a man by the name of, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right, Jai Josephs, or Jay Josephs. It's one of those two. It's Jai, and it goes like this. Sorry. Oh, that's right. I have to cover this up if I do that. Getting away from this is not going to help. So if you know this, sing along with me, okay? And it goes like this. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. And it goes on to say, let's see. I love myself the way I am, and still I want to grow. 'Cause change outside can only come when deep inside I know, join me, I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. That's a great song. We ought to revive that one. So it's a great reminder of the infinite, eternal, ever-present beauty of who we are, and that includes the body temple. In Science of Mind, we teach that everything exists in order that the divine may fully express itself. Your body, exactly as it is necessary for the divine to express itself. So I'd like you to let that sink in. So rather than compare the body to others or wish that it was different, what if each and every one of us, if we just start here, each and every one of us decided to love our body and accept our body exactly as it is in this present moment? That is the field in which, again, everything can reset to the perfect pattern that's already in the the mind of God within us. Let's breathe. So the next one is the body temple as a reflection of our thought world. This is so important. So we have this amazingly designed, perfectly designed body that responds to our thoughts and our beliefs. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture. I saw one recently in Optimist Daily. It was a picture of two twins. These were two men who started off life when they were babies looking exactly alike. One had become an optimist and one had become a pessimist. And it showed these men now in their elder years and how different they looked. The optimism shone through on the one man's face and the pessimism showed up on the other man's face. It was amazing to see the difference. And what a huge testament to the importance of optimism, of cultivating that way of life. We could call it having faith or whatever it is, but it's an optimistic. It's a hopeful. It's a belief that life is good and that no matter how things appear to be, that I'm here to shine the light and to be that presence of good and to look for it everywhere and to exclaim it and to encourage it. There's a book that's called The Body Keeps Score, and it's by Bessel van der Kolk. And there is a quote from it that says, "The greatest source of our suffering are the lies we tell ourselves." The lies we tell ourselves. So I'd like to illustrate that with this story. The story about a psychologist who works with teenagers and had two clients who had very similar backgrounds. One, they both had high GPAs. They both had comfortable home lives. They were both juniors in high school. They had a lot of similarities in general in their backgrounds. Came from the same town, the same general area of town. And the two young women, though, were drastically different. And the psychologist noted this. The first one, they both came, for various reasons, but the first one was generally a happy person, relaxed, well-adjusted, generally doing well emotionally, and felt connected to her family and friends, handled challenges with grace, and looked forward to her future. She was comfortable in her own skin. The second woman struggled. She was anxious and sad. She didn't feel like she fit in. She struggled with an eating disorder and disliked herself and her body. And with therapy, she eventually, through a lot of hard work, began to become more comfortable with her body and to feel in harmony with life. She healed over time. The psychologist reflected on these two young women, and the main difference that she could find between them was the relationship that they had with their bodies. The relationship they had with their bodies. So again, looking at what the difference was, it's pretty clear. Does everybody catch the difference? It's what I was talking about with the twins, the optimist and the pessimist. That looking at our body as something separate from us, finding fault with it, leads to a life of misery. On the other hand, now that we know the importance of the body temple, that all shapes and sizes, all colors and variations of it are perfect just as they are. If we can hold that awareness, then we begin to move forward in a more positive direction, a more stable life, a happier life, and this thing called grace begins to happen because we're relaxed, we're open, we're available, and healing begins to happen because we live in this state of self-acceptance. Ernest Holmes also stated the importance of, well, let me do some other things first. So the other piece of it is when we understand the body is spiritual and we understand the power of love, we begin to love the body. And I can remember when I made this shift because I had a real war going on with my body at one point in time in my life. And I remember when I came into these studies and I began to shift, and at some point in time, I can't tell you when it happened, but I realized that I needed to love my body, and that meant feeding it healthy foods. So I gave up the sugars and all the things. I mean, I still do a little sugar, but I gave up the unhealthy diet. I gave it up. It's like, no, that is not loving to my body. And I began in earnest to understand that I needed exercise on a regular basis, and I'll get into that in a few moments. And I understood that I needed to get plenty of sleep, that spiritual practice was important, that the thoughts that I fed my mind were important. And so I understood the importance of loving myself on all levels. And everything began to change in my life. And those of you who've been around for a long time, I've told the story of at one point in my life was a real mess on all levels, health-wise and everything else. And a chronic health condition that I had that the doctor said I just have to live with, and I was constantly going from one specialist to the other, disappeared. Why? Because the atmosphere, the mental atmosphere in which I was living was transformed. And so my body could heal. And Ernest Holmes also reminds us that it's good and right to receive medical care. And this is what he says. He says, since we cannot walk on water at this point, we take a boat. And then he also mentioned that if we're not at the point in which we know how to instantaneously heal the body, and there are people on the planet that do, and Charlie Curtis is one of them. If we don't know how to do that instantaneously, then we take an aspirin, So this is from Ernest Holmes. And so respecting and caring for our bodies, loving our bodies, will lead to a more stable life. And so the final thing I want to talk about is the body temple as a guidance system. So when we do not listen to the signals that our body is sending us, we end up having pain in the body. We end up having illness and health issues that get lodged in the body. And there are very powerful ways to learn how to release it. Our method, spiritual mind treatment, is powerful to get the subconscious mind in alignment with truth and start getting all the stuff to release. And often what happens when we start on this path and we're doing our spiritual mind treatment daily, what happens? Anybody want to tell me what happens often at the beginning stages at least, and sometimes later? Everything comes up that needs to be healed. And so that means sometimes things look like they're breaking down all around us. I've heard people say, oh my gosh, it's like people who I used to be friends with don't want to be friends with me anymore, and I've lost my job, and all this kind of thing. But what happens is it's the breakdown before the breakthrough, and then all new structures come into place. Anybody experience that? I have. Yeah, right. Okay, so our practitioners are trained to support you through it. Raise your hand if you're a practitioner in this room. Look around. Those are people who are here to support you. And Candace would have her hand up too. And actually me too. We're here to help. We're here to support you. And so by developing a habit of listening to the body, it is this perfect guidance system. It will no longer have to shout at us to get our attention. And so I'm going to share a case in point, and this is really recent for me. So what happened is during this whole pandemic period, I had issues before this when I was sitting too long at the computer, particularly on Saturdays when I was creating my message. I would often end up with things like cramps and things like that Sunday evening. So that was one little sign right there. The next thing that happened, though, is as the pandemic unfolded, more time on the computer because of Zoom and Zoom meetings and so on and so forth, answering emails, longer periods of time sitting. My body started to ache. And guess where it was aching? It was aching. It was really hurting. And I kept ignoring it, because I wanted to keep getting things done. And so eventually it's like, okay, I surrender. So I went to a physical therapist, I went to the chiropractor. I did all the physical things that I needed to do. But I also have been in this teaching long enough to know that this is a multi-dimensional thing that's going on here. And so I did my inner work, and I continue to do my inner work around this. And so in addition to those physical things, I also set my clock for the mindfulness gongs that come every 30 minutes, except on Sunday. Every 30 minutes, which means I stand, I stretch, I move my body. I become mindful, I become aware of my feet, aware of my entire body, and I listen. So I put that in. But I also received guidance that I was buying into the belief that as you age, you have all these little aches and pains. It's like, no. When I realized that, no. I got my prayer partners to start working with me on that, on transforming that. And so I now am holding the belief and knowing that my body, just like my mind is fresh and new in every moment, I'm an eternal spirit, my body is fresh and new in every moment. And so, yes, my body may look a little bit different as I get older, but I'm just knowing that that those aches and pains are not necessary. That's not what I choose to buy into. In addition to that, I started getting other kinds of help. My daughter, Michelle, sent me this link on something called reverse therapy. Really cool stuff. It totally is in alignment with science of mind. It's totally in alignment with science of mind. It educates people on how the body temple works and how the brain sends pain signals when it's not necessary anymore. Or maybe it's just for a little message and you get the message and it's over with. So I watched a video of how somebody, a therapist guiding somebody through it. And here was the bottom line. If I'm not in pain all the time, then that means there's no reason for the pain signal other than maybe to guide me to get up and move. But so here's the deal. I knew that every time I was active, I had no pain in my body anywhere. If I was taking a walk, a hike, biking, whatever, I felt great. So what did that mean? That mean that pain signal was really not necessary. It was just really a way of telling me I was sitting too long, or whatever it was. But I wanted to rewire that because I had this long trip to Croatia. 8 hours on the plane at one point in time and then another hour and a half. So I kept telling myself there's no and this is what he said, there's no structural reason for this pain. There's no structural reason for this pain. So I kept giving my body temple that message every time I felt little twinges. I was able to sit through that entire, both ways, without any issues. I would get up and move every once in a while, but I got through it, and the entire vacation, other than the morning, that's the next thing I'm working on, is getting up in the morning, and actually that is even beginning to resolve, because the last couple mornings I've been able to get right up out of bed without morning stiffness. And again, it's the power of the mind, and it's the perfect pattern that's already present in our bodies. And it's understanding that that this is how it works. Our body temple is a guidance system, and our body temple reflects our thoughts, and our body temple is perfectly designed. So let's breathe that in. And I'd like you to just yawn and stretch. And then notice, what is the main takeaway for me here today? What is the main takeaway? And then I'd like you to turn to at least one or two other people and share what your main takeaway is. Because this is the way we'll be able to integrate it and take it out into our lives. Call everybody back instead of shouting, right? All right. Oh, this really stirred up a lot of conversation. Really good conversation.
We have another half hour.
This is really good stuff, right? Okay, my friends. Well, let's move on to the next thing, and we have a song by Sharon.
Thank you.